So happy to be joined this week on the podcast by one of the men of the hour, the general manager of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Jason Licht. And Jason, congratulations on getting to the Super Bowl and being the first NFL franchise who will play the Super Bowl on its home field.
Yeah, that's it really hasn't set in yet. It's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah. And it's sort of you've had one of the most interesting years, I think, that anybody in your business could have. And I want to reflect just a little bit, before we get into this game, but I want to reflect just a little bit on the team you built. A year ago, you were sitting there with the Bucs, with Jameis Winston as your quarterback, coming off a year where he obviously threw a lot of interceptions, and you were looking around, although you really hadn't eliminated Jameis Winston from consideration for coming back, if I'm not mistaken, for the 2020 season. And, you had some interesting options. You had Teddy Bridgewater, and then there was Tom Brady sitting out there. And let's just go back in time, maybe to the first time you and Bruce Arians had a real conversation about the possibility of getting Tom Brady on your team.
Yeah, it was about probably almost exactly a year ago. I can't remember the exact date. We had an end of the year get together with staff and with the business side, the entire organization. Something that we have typically done. Can't do it now, but it was probably the last time we ever did something like that. And Bruce and I were, mingling with people that we don't normally mingle with, people that work in ticketing and accounting and all that kind of stuff, and pulled him aside. And I remember saying, there is one player out there that, that, may sound like a pipe dream, but we could consider. It's Tom Brady. And, it just kind of went from there. We had a lot of meetings. We had a lot of, evaluations. All of our scouts and coaches did, dotted their I's, crossed their T's, doing all the evaluations of every quarterback that was available. And lo and behold, we're at this point now.
When you first started thinking about it, did you have a good feeling about it? Did you just think it was, like you said, a pipe dream?
Well, for me, it was, we just, and my staff, we just had to do our due diligence. And, it was kind of weird. I think Clyde Christensen walked by his office one day and he was watching tape on all the quarterbacks. And he said, "This is really weird. I'm watching Tom Brady. There's a chance that he could become free if he didn't go back to New England." He said, "I'm looking around." He said he was looking around if there was a camera, if this was some kind of prank. And but for me, it was a little bit I don't know if this is ever going to happen. But Bruce, being as confident as he is, he was like, "Well, why the hell wouldn't this happen? Why the hell wouldn't he want to come here?" We, this is, I think we've talked about this before, or I have with someone that John Spytek is my personnel director, and I've got a great staff. I could talk for hours about him. But we were in my office one day and Bruce was in there, and I posed that very question. I said, "Well, why would he come here?" And Bruce said, "Why the hell wouldn't he?" And then Spytek pointed to, I had a depth chart up in my office on my smartboard, and he said, "This is why he would come." And he pointed to, Mike Evans and Godwin and OJ and, our defense, Levante and company. And he said, "We built it. He will come." And so it became known as Operation Shoeless Joe Jackson. So we, then throughout the process, Spytek would pop into my office, or Mike Beal, my college director, or Mike Greenberg, our cap guy, or Rob McCartney, my pro director, and just every once in a while would say, "Hey, go the distance," and drop little lines from Field of Dreams. So it was a fun time. It was, they were just trying to keep my keep my sanity, but also realize, hey, this could happen. So it was a long, felt like years, but it was only months until we actually had the opportunity to talk to his agent and then ultimately talk to him when we were able to. But when we called his agent, Don Yee, the first thing he said was, "You made the right call." So I knew at that point we had a chance. So it obviously told me that they had been looking at us as a potential option.
What's really interesting, that was, I believe, Monday, March 16, which would have been the first day of the legal tampering period. And as you told me back then, you and Bruce never talked to Tom Brady until Wednesday, I think it would be the 18th, where you finally had a conversation with him. So that had to be a pretty big conversation. What do you remember about your talk with him? And it was you and Bruce at the same time?
Yeah, I went over to Bruce's house, and the minute that we could talk to him, I called him first, and his first words were, "Hey, babe," how he talks. He said, "This is going to be fun," and I remember, I had the phone and I went, "I think this is actually happening," to Bruce. And we had a talk for whatever it was, 30, 45 minutes. He rattled off all of the players that we had. He obviously had done his homework, which is us to be expected, the way he is so detailed. Talked about every game we played and how close we were, and our defense, how it stepped up the second half. And then I turned it over to Bruce, and those two just talked for what seemed like an hour, and then gave me the phone back. And first thing he asked was, "Hey, can you give me the numbers of all of every player on our team? I want to start talking to him." And he told me, I can't remember what the number was, but he had the exact number of hours that we had until we opened up the season with New Orleans. And he said, "We have to take advantage of every minute." So
you mean he said we've got 25,647 hours?
Whatever it is. Yeah. He knew. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. And I wonder, in a football sense, obviously you think, wow, it's great, we got Brady on our team. But I mean, in a football sense, were you pretty sure it would work? Were you positive it would work? How did you feel right around that time in the middle of March?
I'll be honest with you, we thought it would work. We were confident. I've got the most confident head coach maybe in the history of the NFL.
You probably do.
That was, of course, this is going to work. Hey, this is great, babe. It's like, here we go, man. Like, all right, great job. Let's go. One other thing about that conversation that I've never talked about, it was after, we had talked and we, knew that this was going to happen. I said, "Hey, there's one other thing here. It's a small thing, but maybe a big thing. We have a number 12 on our team, and he's pretty good, in Chris Godwin. What are you thinking about that?" And he said, "Oh, he's a great player. I'm not going to take his number." He goes, "You know what number I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of taking maybe number 7. Is that available?" And he goes, I said, "Yeah, I think it is." And I said, "Why 7?" He goes, "Go after that 7th Super Bowl." He goes, "That's pretty cool."
Wow.
But it turns out Godwin offered his jersey to him. They arranged that however they did. That's between them. But I thought that was pretty cool that he wasn't, he's got the TB12 brand and all that he was going to demand.
That really does surprise me, by the way, that he just didn't care, or seemingly didn't care.
Yeah, it was last thing on his mind. Well, obviously he thought about it a little bit, like, hey, you know what, maybe I'll be number 7,
That's very good. I like that. That's good. And one other thing about Brady, what's he been like around the building? Take me into take me into walking down the hall, running into Brady, and what's he like just around the building?
He's the most humble superstar that I have ever been around. He is gracious. He's polite. He doesn't want to ruffle feathers. He doesn't want to be treated special. That was very apparent from the beginning. He said, I've got to earn my players, my teammates' respect. When you pass him in the hallway, he acts as if he's a practice squad, player. He obviously doesn't have that aura to him. It's like, it's Tom Brady,
Yeah.
So, but he couldn't be more just quote unquote normal if he tried. It's really a great quality about him, and I think that's why he is such an exceptional, rare leader. That he truly cares about everybody, his teammates, his coaches, staff, treats them all with the utmost respect.
You know what I thought when he left New England? I mean, everybody has made it out to be, Belichick versus Brady and all that stuff. And I mean, you were in the organization, obviously, so you know both people very well. But I honestly felt that this is not someone's fault that Tom Brady left the New England Patriots. I just look at it as sort of life. Who takes a job and when he's 21 years old and stays in that job forever? They're what, 10% of the American population? 5? I don't even know. But I think it's pretty natural that a guy might want to see whether the grass is greener somewhere else. Maybe not even that. He might just want to go somewhere else and play somewhere else. I don't think it was a hatred of Belichick, the Patriots, or anything like that. I think it was a realization, hey, if I could play a couple of years, who knows, 2 or 3 years, at a place that has incredible talent, why wouldn't I try that? And I think a lot of people want to paint this as this is someone's fault. And I have never thought it was.
Not at all. Not at all. I think you're exactly right. I think 5% may be a little bit overshooting that estimate.
Yeah.
I think, 20 years at one place is a long time. And, it's for him, I think he really likes challenges. I think he really likes to prove things. It's not about money for him. It's just about trying to do something that nobody else has done, and not for personal gain. It's just the way he's wired, and he's always been wired. So I don't think it was anybody's fault. I think he wanted to try something new.
I want to talk just a little bit about the draft. And obviously you're sitting in a room right now where I had a little bit of a view on draft night. You did your draft from home and you worked really, really hard. You allowed me to see your draft. I was able to FaceTime into the first round of the draft and see you guys make a deal. You traded up one spot and took Tristian Wirfs, the tackle from Iowa. But I thought what was really interesting about your draft is that you had 2 players, and I'm sure you had 9 players, but there were 2 players that, from talking to you after this, you really, really wanted. One was Tristian Wirfs, and one was Antoine Winfield Jr. And again, there are others. I'm sure they weren't the top 2 players on your board, but what I'm saying is those are 2 guys who you really had, your organization had rated very highly, and you thought, man, if we could come out of the draft with these 2 guys, we would love to. And I just want you to tell me the story about, if you can, why you fell in love with each guy.
Well, with Tristian, first of all, he's a very talented player. He's very powerful, athletic. He's an Iowa offensive lineman. You always got to like that. they're coached very well there, and there's a great track record. But getting to know him through the process of Zooms, we talked to him at the Combine last year, but just through Zooms, you could see what a humble person he was, and just raised right, fantastic mother. And just, we got lucky a little bit in that that's the way he actually ended up being and what he is. You can get a little bit bamboozled sometimes with these interviews, and guys don't turn out the way you think they're going to. That's the draft. It's a crapshoot. But just, everything about him, plus the fact that we have a 43-year-old quarterback that we need to protect. And it was a natural decision that's what we needed, and that's what we got. So moving up one spot, we were worried about a couple teams coming up to that spot and getting him. And it turns out that there was some action there. That's why it took so long for them to agree to the trade. They were going over whether or not it was better to move back one spot for them to get their guy, or move back, however many spots to later. So found out after the fact that once again, we got lucky, but we made the right decision in moving up that spot.
I remember, by the way, I think you were on the phone with Mike Mayock, who had to pick a couple of spots ahead of you. And you're on the phone with Mayock, and in the background, I hear this blood-curdling scream, "Mommy." And I just said, man, Jason Licht now is dealing with what every American is dealing with right now, working at home. There's one wall separating Jason Licht between the mayhem of his house and his 3 children and drafting the next right tackle of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was I bet at the time you didn't think it was, but that was a cute, very Americana 2020 moment.
It really was. If people want to know what the general manager of a football team does after, we signed Tom Brady and, had traded for Gronk, and then move up and take Tristian Wirfs, what do I do? We had a little celebratory moment with the family, but what does he do afterwards? Well, I went into the kitchen and noticed our dog had an accident on the floor. So I had to clean that up. And then I loaded the dishwasher. So that's the life of a GM now.
Tell me about Winfield.
Well, obviously not every former NFL great who has a son playing in college doesn't automatically mean that they're going to be a great player, but it certainly helps when he has lived through most of his life, watching his dad, play in the NFL and what it takes and the grind and everything like that. So that was a plus for us, not the deciding factor, but just once again, it's almost like these two, Tristian and Antoine, are related, just the way they act. They're just such great kids that just love football, and they're rookies this year, so they didn't want to overstep their boundaries, especially Antoine, of, hey, I'm coming in here and I'm going to be the leader. They're soaking it all in, and that's Antoine. And I've talked to our coaches several times throughout the year saying, man, you're doing a great job with Nick Rapone's our safeties coach. I said, you're doing a great job with Antoine. And he says, no, if I'm doing a great job, I'm just doing a great job, not screwing him up. Just let him go. This kid, I remember one day at practice, all the DBs were standing around. We had, a couple minutes before a new period started. And I said, hey, let's not let Antoine, I was joking around, get a big head now. He's not perfect. And they all looked at me and said, oh, no, he is. He doesn't make mistakes. This guy is perfect. So, and it doesn't go to his head. He's just a humble person, just like we've been talking about. And I think that's the key to our success that we've had so far this year, is that whole team it's just a very just not selfless attitude. And I think it starts with Tom Brady.
So interesting when you watch your team play. Bruce Arians told me after the New Orleans playoff game that, he felt, there were a lot of big plays in that game. He felt that the biggest play was when Winfield punched the ball out of who am I thinking of now?
Look.
But yeah, that's right. The tight end. He punched the ball out of his grasp, and then Devin White picked up the ball and he ran it for, I don't know, 20 yards or something. And then, that really was a huge turning point in the game. And I'm thinking to myself, I said, a 22-year-old rookie safety punches the ball out. A 22-year-old defensive signal caller with the green dot on his helmet picks it up and runs it back a few yards. And then you guys basically, clinch the game from there and win it from there. And I just thought, for someone who's a general manager, it has to be an unbelievable feeling that your two long-term great players on your defense are 22 years old, going to New Orleans and resoundingly defeating Drew Brees in his last game. And I talked to White after the game on the phone. He was very nice and complimentary about Drew Brees, but he didn't care it was Drew Brees' last game. That was the biggest game of his NFL life, obviously. And how do you feel when you realize that you really hit on two huge guys basically to mold your defense around for a while?
Well, it feels great. Once again, so proud of my staff that have worked so incredibly hard over the last few years, and to see it all come together, I'm just very happy for them. I'm the luckiest general manager right now in the NFL, I feel, because I really do have an incredible staff, and the coaching staff as well. And these guys really take a lot of pride into developing players and putting them out there as rookies. A lot of coaches won't do that. And so we also had Sean Murphy-Bunting had a big play in the game, and Mike Edwards, a lot of young guys. We get a little bit, I think it's a little unfair that we get labeled as an old team. But we have some players that are up there in age, starting with Tom, but we also have a lot of good young players that have been, these last couple wins have been, pure team wins. You can't just put it on one person. It's been a lot of guys, a lot of pieces that are coming together at the right time. Hopefully it continues.
Two other things quickly. One is, how's Antonio Brown been around your team this year?
He has been nothing short of spectacular. His attitude, his work ethic, which everybody knows he works very hard, but just his attitude. He's actually been mentoring players. I see him on the sideline this year talking to Leonard Fournette, saying, hey, be patient, your time will come. Be a team player. And it's really a remarkable moment, like to see Antonio Brown being a mentor. It's been spectacular. Couldn't be happier with him, what he's done for us as a player, but also what he's done for us as a teammate. So, a lot of people wouldn't think you would be saying that about him, but I am.
He seems to have heeded what clearly is, he's sort of at the last chance saloon here. If this blows up with Tom Brady, Bruce Arians, you, and a team around him that basically is the perfect team for him to succeed with, I doubt he's going to be getting many or any other chances. Antonio Brown, Antoine Winfield, Super Bowl. They both missed, with injuries, the championship game. Any gut feeling as we sit here, 12 days away?
I do know that these guys desperately want to play, and whether it was the Super Bowl or not, this coming up in 2 weeks, they desperately want to play, and their mindset is right. And I'm optimistic at this point, but we'll see.
You know, it's also, I'll just end with this. I was so impressed when I visited your camp in August with a kid from Bowling Green named Scotty Miller, a wide receiver, who that day, it was the first day that you guys had offense versus defense in training camp. And it was a big day and everybody was playing hard. Scotty Miller is diving. It's like the biggest day of his life. And at one point he comes back to the sidelines and he just vomits all over the ground. And I just said to myself, this is a kid who will do anything to be able to play in the NFL and particularly play with Tom Brady. Am I right?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. He's a hungry player, and he's a great teammate. And Tom wouldn't be throwing him those balls that he has this year if he didn't have confidence in him. Guy will do anything to help the team, and very, very happy for him and the way his career has taken off a little bit here. Coaches have done a fantastic job with him.
Hey, listen, you got to hit on the 208th player in the draft occasionally to have a really good roster. I mean, those are guys who you need. Those picks really, really matter. Jimmy Johnson used to say all the time, I just want to collect a lot of picks because I know I'm going to be wrong on some, but I have enough confidence in our ability that if we have a bunch of picks, we're going to hit on a bunch of them. So when I look at Scotty Miller, that's what I think, that, hey, 208th pick in the draft, 6th round pick, and a lot of people passed on him. And those are the kind of guys that if they come in and play well, they help your roster immeasurably.
We could sit here and talk for a long time about my misses. Had a lot of them.
Might not be the year to do that, though. You've hit on a lot of them, too.
I've kind of, as I've matured in this position, I've come to find out that when the coaches and the scouts are all uniform in their like or for a player during the draft process, and everybody wants a certain player, your chances of hitting on him it's 1,000 times better than any other player. Like if I say I like this player, I don't care if you guys don't like him, you'll end up liking him. Watch out, I'm right, you're wrong. Usually doesn't work. But when everybody likes a player, and Scotty Miller was one of them. Tyler Johnson was another. Tyler Johnson was another one. I'm talking about the later round picks. Tyler Johnson was another one this year.
Tyler Johnson might be, I'm not saying he has the best hands in the NFL, but the last 2 weeks, he has made 2 catches that there's no way he should have made.
Clutch.
And I looked him up after the game and I said, how can this guy be a late 5th round pick? I mean, come on. How is he the 160th or whatever he was pick in the draft? He's a good player.
I'll tell you, last year at the Outback Bowl, which is played here at Raymond James, so I am able to use my wife's suite to go to the game, and Bruce as well, and their suites are next to each other. And Bruce was at the game. I was at the game with my family, and Tyler Johnson exploded in that game. And Bruce knocks on the window separating the suites and points at him. And I said, good. And then he goes, we need to take that kid in the 2nd round. So obviously we were apart this year during the draft, but he was banging me up on my phone and on Zoom. He's like, when are we taking Tyler Johnson? If we would have taken him with the 13th pick, he would have been happy. So
hey, it's the art of the draft. All I know is that these last 2 drafts, man, you and your staff are killing it. You deserve a tremendous amount of credit for the Bucs being in this game. So congratulations to you, Jason.
I appreciate it, Peter.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.